I'll introduce you to a training program on software computing techniques in civil engineering. As a part of this program today, I request all the participants to mute yourself. Thank you. So, as a part of this AICT program today, we have an expert and speaker, Professor Srinivas Raju Garu. So, Professor K. Srinivas Raju is professor in the Department of Civil Engineering at BITS Pilani, Hyderabad campus, India. He has completed MTech from Indian Institute of Technology, Madras, and did his PhD from IIT Kharagpur in Water Resources Engineering. Professor Srinivas Raju worked with Professor Lucy Duckstein in the field of multi-criterion decision making with reference to water resources planning during his postdoctoral program at France. Professor Srinivas Raju research interests include impact of climate change on water resources systems, multi-criterion decision making, and soft computing applications in water resources engineering. Professor Srinivas Raju has published more than 130 papers in various reputed journals and conferences and has been reviewer for more than 44 international journals. He has also co-authored a few books along with Professor D. Nagesh Kumar, such as a few are fluid mechanics problem solving using MATLAB, which is published in the year 2020 by PHI New Delhi. Another one is Impact of Climate Change on Water Resources, published in the year 2018 by Springer. And another one is Multi-Criterion Analysis in Engineering and Management, published in 2010 by PHI New Delhi. Adding to that, Professor Srinivas Raju is also an editor for Journal of Water and Climate Change, IWA Publishing, and associate editor for ISH Journal of Hydraulic and Engineering, which is at Taylor Francis. At present, he is working on collaborative sponsored project rainfall runoff modeling for lower Godavari Basin in changing climate with Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, sponsored by CSIR. Professor Srinivas Raju also completed 5 sponsored projects, including 2 collaborative projects with ISC Bangalore on climate modeling and integrated urban flood management. With this introduction, I would like to hand over the session to Professor Srinivas Raju, sir. Sir, we are very fortunate to have you for this session as a part of AICT program. I'd like to hand over the session to you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So, welcome to all of you. So, today and tomorrow, I'm delivering 2 lectures related to data mining in water resource engineering. And first, before starting, I should acknowledge Professor Nagesh, my long-term collaborator. And we have taken material from these 2 books. One is of the climate change of our books, second is multi-criteria book written by me, Professor Nagesh. So my topics are coverage goes like this: the intro, and I'll talk about K-means cluster analysis, fuzzy cluster analysis in principle, and the cluster validation techniques, and the case studies. Wherever possible, I'll explain this mechanism with simple numerical problems for better understanding. As mentioned earlier, I'm spreading my lectures for today as well as tomorrow. And wherever you are in doubt, I request you to stop me. Okay, thank you. So, generally, whenever I'm using the word data mining is having multiple facets. So, the mechanism which I'm speaking today is one small facet of data mining called cluster analysis or clustering algorithms. So what exactly, first the data mining, the name itself suggests data and the mining. Mining means what? You are digging the data, try to understand the different features of the data. And when I was talking about the cluster analysis, what is cluster analysis? The name itself says once again, cluster. What is cluster? Forming the data into groups, into clusters. For what purpose? Purpose is that, so what is purpose of cluster analysis? I'm having a lot of data sets, maybe 2000 data sets or 3000 data sets. Each data set has certain features. Feature means what? Certain attributes. Attributes means what? criteria 1, criteria 2, like this. So let us assume you take any irrigation planning problem. I am having multiple data sets, multiple alternatives I will call. And each alternative, each data set I am characterizing with criteria like the benefits, or maybe the production, or maybe labor employment. So for that criteria, the benefits, production, labor employment, for me, this I am calling as the criteria, or in the data mining language, features. FEATURES, features. Then, so throughout my lectures, whenever using data sets, please note that these are the number of alternatives, and the features is then the criteria. So the purpose of cluster analysis is that if I am having too many data sets may be bigger number. So the cluster analysis will try to group these data sets into clusters or into categories, and each category or each cluster, it is expected that the data sets will be homogeneous. That means that the data in each cluster analysis, each cluster are homogeneous. That means that the data sets in two different clusters are heterogeneous. And whenever using the data sets I already mentioned here, we can use choice, strategy, alternatives. So that means that for me, the efficient clustering algorithm is such a way that the data sets in a group are similar, expected to be homogeneous as compared to the other cluster. That's why I told you homogeneous, heterogeneous. So there are number of algorithms for cluster analysis, but today I am presenting mainly the k-means in terms of the first algorithm. What is the k? K is nothing but the number of clusters. K means, what it means? Means here meaning. It is nothing but the average. Group mean. So I am starting my discussion with the k-means algorithm today. Whenever I talk about k-means, I already told you k means the number of clusters and means nothing but the group mean. So it is simple iterative algorithm. Iterative algorithm means what? Iterative means what? Over the iterations, over the number of epochs, the algorithm will try to converge. In this case, how it going to happen? It is so simple mechanism. Let us assume there are 10 data sets are there. I mean 3 clusters, 3 groups in fact. So initially I don't know anything about which data set fit into which cluster. I keep randomly some data into the one of the cluster. After some iterative process, the data set is expected to move to an appropriate cluster. This I'm going to explain as a numerical problem which is coming a little bit later. So the step number 1 in any of the clustering algorithms are the normalize the data set. Normalize means what? Let us assume, as mentioned some time back, I am having criteria 1, criteria 2, criteria 3. Criteria 1 unit is nothing but rupees. Criteria 2 unit is tons. Criteria 3 units is mandates. They are of 3 different units. So option number 1, you try to convert all the data into one common unit, or make the data dimensionless. That means that you are trying to make the data dimensionless so that you don't have any issues in terms of the while adding. Because I cannot add rupees plus tons plus mandates, but I can add, when data is dimensionless, I can add these numbers because none of these are having units. Or I can add if every criteria having the same unit. So that is purpose of the normalization. Most of data mining algorithms, the step number 1, we're expected to normalize before moving further. After that, as mentioned earlier, let us assume I am having 10 data sets. Okay, So, and what is my understanding? What I am supposed to do? I am supposed to do the clustering. I really don't know how many clusters are optimum clusters for the data sets. That is one more a beautiful research area which I am touching in these presentations today and tomorrow. That means initially I don't have an idea. What I'm doing now, I am what are data sets are possible, what is n here, the number of data sets. How many clusters you can make? I can make in principle n clusters, but each cluster may have only one data set. That means that the step number one, these are the parameters. I'm supposed to identify what is the range of clusters which I'm trying to classify my data. So I cannot take one. One means what? All data sets falling into one cluster. What is n? Every data set falling into each individual cluster. That is, but we kept a range between 2 to n. That means the number of clusters between 2 to n. But again, question mark, I told you that how to find the optimum k. This is another research domain which I am covering a little bit later. The second parameter, important parameter, is the number of iterations. What is number of iterations I told you? That is one, as iteration is what? One mechanism over, second mechanism, third mechanism. That means the time, the iterative process for one mechanism that I'm calling as iterations. Then, when can I stop this process? That nothing but the termination criteria. That means before starting any clustering algorithms, you're supposed to have very clarity about what exactly you're supposed to do for this type of parameters. Then as already mentioned now, assign each data set initial to any one of the groups amongst k. Let us assume I kept the 3 clusters. That means what is the value of the k I have taken here? The 3. After that, initially I don't know anything. So let us assume myself a data set. I'm simply going to some cluster. I'm standing there. Typical, my friend is in other cluster, but my friend is there. I'm here, but I want with my friend. That means homogeneity. That means that the process expected to be evolve over the time, over the number of iterations, so that the homogeneity thinking people will move to their respective groups. After once each data set is assigned to each cluster, then what I'm supposed to do? I'm supposed to take the mean of the assigned groups. For example, the group 1, there are 3 data sets are there. What I'm supposed to do? I take up the mean of the three data sets. And in the clustering algorithm, what is the objective function? Objective function is nothing but the minimization from the group mean. What is minimization of group mean? Minimization of the data set value to the group mean. That means at the end of the day, this we are calling as the error. So this is my objective function. The sum of the square difference of each criterion from the mean of its assigned group is the objective function. And as I mentioned, the data set transferred. Just they move in the iteration process. Initially, I'm here. Later, while this error is moving up or error is moving down, I'm going to my other friend. After seeing me, my other friend moved to other group because they don't want to be with him. So like this, data sets are transferred in an iterative way. At some point of time, there is no improvement, which is in terms of which I'm calling as what? The termination criteria. So you can see I'm using here intra-cluster sum of square difference, which is nothing but the error of each cluster is, there is no change beyond that. So when can I stop this, the K-means algorithm? I can stop K-means algorithm when, if no transfer of data, all are almost parallel tracks. If no transfer of data sets occurs, that means what? People are fed up, or people are got bored, or there is no much change. Even iterations are increasing. So if no transfer of data occurs, or again same meaning, when there is transfer of data occurs, what is going to happen? No change in the group mean between 2 successive iterations. Is it right? There is no improvement. Or some point in time reaching pre-specified number of iterations. I will say stop the algorithm after 1000 iterations. So algorithm stops after 1000 iterations. Or you can reach your error tolerance level. What is error tolerance level? We'll say if error is less than or equal to this, please stop. So you can, sometimes people keep the elapsed time. They will say after 300 seconds, you stop. Some type of termination criteria mechanism so that the algorithm converges logically. So this is the way that you can keep any number of termination criteria. Sometimes you can make either maybe this as well as this. So whichever occurs earlier, it may be, why it may work out. Accordingly, your choice of trying to make the termination criteria. However, you have to make sure that at least for your satisfaction, the algorithm converges. And so this is the error. EK is nothing but the error. This is my objective function. That means what is my objective function tag? Minimization of EK. What is G dash here? G dash is the cluster. For example, I have told you 4 clusters. 4 cluster means what? Cluster 1, cluster 2, cluster 3, cluster 4. What is EK? Error in the cluster 1 plus error in the cluster 2 plus error in the cluster 3 plus error in the cluster 4. So that is nothing but the EK. Again, I will do for cluster number 5 clusters. Like this, what I am supposed to check out logically for each cluster size, I am supposed to understand how the error is varying. If data is logical, data is not so closely spaced data, expected that the error is expected to reduce by increasing the number of clusters. Then so there are 2 options before me. Sometimes my researcher says the k value is this much. That means already they mentioned to me the k value is 3. So I don't have any problem. I can run only for the cluster 3 clusters. I can say this is the way. Second is what? Really most of the time for realistic problems, we may not know what is the optimum cluster size. Most of the times. In that case, I am supposed to find out the optimum k using cluster validation techniques. And the K-means algorithm, it is a typical a nonlinear problem category. It may yield a local optimum. Local optimum is what? Most of the time, if you're running second time, you may not expect the same solution. So this is a small difficulty you may have while running the K-means algorithm. So there are a number of mechanisms are there to minimize this type of difficulties. So option number 1, what you can do, initially, while I told you initially, I don't know where I can go and sit in which cluster. But if you want to be more robust mechanism, initially you can run hierarchical clustering analysis. Whatever I speak, K-means is nothing but non-hierarchical clustering. Hierarchical clustering, the number of algorithms, hierarchical clustering algorithms are there, like Watt's method, agglomerated clustering, etc. That you can, as initial basis, at least you can classify, at least you can assign each data set into some cluster. That can be starting point for the K-means cluster analysis. Most of the time, what will happen, I use the word here, the relevant criteria. Please note that always whatever we are speaking is the tools, like a pen in my hand. As a domain expert, it should be very clear for each problem what are the relevant criteria that are necessary to model. Please note that I'm making software, I can any number of criteria. Most of the time, it may not work out. So make sure that you are having a clear understanding about the physical problem, the case study before applying this type of tools. The third thing about handling outliers in a systematic way. Outliers is nothing but, for example, I'm giving simple example. Everybody in a group are 5 feet 6 inches. Somebody having, let us 6 feet 5 inches. For me, the 6 feet 5 inches is as a jokey way I'm telling that for me, I may call that as a outlier. Outlier means what? Here, they are not fitting into a regular group. In that case, what I'm supposed to do? There isn't much meaning of bringing that 6 feet 5 inches into my regular data. For me, it is a separate entity. That means for me, if given opportunity, I'll call himself one cluster. The difficulty point is that if I bring him into a regular data set, what is going to happen here? It is just like this: 5 feet, 7 feet. What is the average of 5 feet, 7 feet here? 6 feet. But most of the people may be in the 5 feet category or 6 feet category. So make sure that whenever there's abnormal data, first identify, study well what exactly the reason behind this abnormal data, whether it is due to maybe due to typographically mistakes or measurement mistakes. If we assume that there are no mistakes on the data measurement entry or the experimental basis, the next option is that try to see where you can make this outlier. So for me, outlier is nothing but sometimes outlier only going to change a lot of mechanism in the data, the clustering algorithms. That is the reason you have to be very careful, very clear whenever you find any abnormal data in the structure. Let us assume 110 mm rainfall. 110 rainfall occurs not daily, is it right? But 5 rainfall may occur on a regular basis. So you have to take care about all these aspects before moving further. So any discussion till now, feel free. Then I'll go to numerical problem of K-means cluster analysis.
The participants can ask in the end of the session, sir. We
Okay.
can go ahead.
Thank you. So this is a typical simple numerical problem I created for the K-means cluster analysis. There are number of data sets. There I kept here the 9 data sets. I am having here 3 features, 3 criteria. I am assuming that data is already normalized. That means this data does not have any units. So initially, I don't know anything. I randomly assigned the data set A1 into group 1. Like this, I try to assign randomly these 9 data sets into 3 clusters. So this is how I made it. It is truly random. I don't have any idea how I'm assigning it. Even I can make everything group 1 also. Doesn't matter. It is only random assignment. Then, so water mechanism, water numeric problem I'm explaining now. Same thing, all your algorithms works, all your softwares works. Then, after that, the step number 1 is nothing but data sets. Then the step number 2, I know very well that the A1, A2, A3 are in the group 1. That means my cluster 1 is nothing, cluster G1 nothing consisting of what? A1, A2, A3. Cluster G2 having A4, A5. Similarly, the cluster G3 having A6, A7, A8, A9. So this is my starting data. Then, after that, what I do? I know that in the group 1 there are 3 data sets are there. What I'm doing now, I'm simply taking the group mean. Group mean means what? You can see a group 1 what is cluster analysis. G1 group mean here 20 plus 60 plus 20, nothing but what? 100 by 3, 33.33. What is 33.33? 33.33 is nothing but the group mean for the criteria 1 for the cluster G1. What is C2 here? Again, I am going back. You can see here 30 plus 70 plus 60 by 3. So that it is nothing but your criteria 2. Similarly, I am doing for the criteria. How am I doing criteria 3? You can see here that 50 plus 40 plus 30 by 3. You can see here again this group mean. So what is group mean? Because this in principle the cluster mean. How we got cluster mean? Is nothing but the average of the alternatives. Next, what I am doing now, I am doing same thing again for the group 2, G2, and I am doing again for the group 3. You can exactly doing, I am not doing anything, I am simply computing the group mean for the cluster 1, cluster 2, cluster 3, for criteria 1, criteria 2, and criteria 3. So what I am trying to do, I am trying to compute the group mean, or I will call simple terms the group average. Then after that, what I will do, I am now checking my distance with all the groups, because I told you that the starting itself, I don't know which group I belongs. So what I'm doing now, I'm trying to check my status. My status means, let us assume the status of, I'm going like the status of A1 with the group mean of G1, group mean of G2, group mean of G3. So wherever my error is minimum, I am belonging to the particular group. Exactly, I am showing the same thing now. You can see here that what is this 33.33? 33.33 nothing but your group mean of G1. 33.33, 53.33, 40. This I am computing here linear distance. What is linear distance here? What is the value of A1 here? 20, 30, 50. So what I am doing now, I am checking the distance. How I am checking distance? 20 minus 33.33. What is 33.33? Group mean of G1 for criteria 1, for criteria 2, for criteria 3. What is 20, 30, 40? These are of the individual values of alternative 1 for criteria 1, for criteria 2, for criteria 3. So accordingly, what is happening here? I am able to compute the distance. The distance I got is 28.61. What is this distance? This distance is nothing but what? Distance of data set A1 from group 1. So exactly you can see the table. You can see the table by A1. So what is G1? I told you the group 1. So what is the distance between A1 and G1? 28.67. Again, I am doing a same job once again, computing the distance of A1 with group 2 mean, G2 mean. Typical mechanism like this. In this case, 33.33, 53.33, 40 will be replaced by 25, 56, 27. Typically, for third group, these values will be replaced by 30.75, 20.25, 20.75. That means what I'm doing now, I'm computing the distance, which I'm calling as a distance. In principle, this is nothing but the error. For what? For all the possible combinations. Here, what are the possible combinations here? Possible combinations are A1, G1, A1, G2, A1, G3. Okay, so which is having the less error here? 28.67 is less error as compared to the 32.07 and 30.84. Which is meaning that since I prefer that the minimum error is preferred, that means out of the 3 possibilities of A1 with the G1, G2, G3, the error is minimum here. So I am assuming that the A1 is time being is assigned for group 1. That's written here 1. What is 1 here? The membership function of alternative 1 for G1. What about zeros? Zeros are nothing but they are not belonging to G2 and G3. So this is typical CRISP cluster analysis. CRISP means what? Single numbers. So again, what I'm doing now, again I'm doing a same repetitive job, same iterative job for the data set A2. Again, what I'm doing now, data set A2 with the G1 group mean, G2 group mean, G3 group mean. Again, you can see here 31.45, 39.87, 58.25. Again, 31.45 is the minimum error. So this belongs to the particular group. So again, that's why getting here again here the 1. Again, you can find here the G1. Like this, we'll do iteratively for all the 9 data sets. For the, I will check out repetitively where I belong in. Whether I belong to the group 1 cluster, G2 cluster, or G3 cluster. So accordingly, I made it. Now, after seeing this, you can find out there are some changes in the assigning of the groups. I'm going back for understanding. Remember, initially A1, A2, A3 are G1, 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 F1, F5, G2, remaining are G3. Please remember, I'm going to again, once again, here, again you can see here, G1, G1, the G1 becomes what again, the G2. It is common. Initially, I don't know, simply gone into one shelter. Later, I found that is not shelter which I belongs. I am moving to the other shelter. That's why I told you sometime back the iterative process. Now, this is a basis for me again to move to the next iteration. Now, what I'm doing, what I'm doing now again, you can find out. I am doing the same iterative process of what again computing the group mean, computing the group mean, and computing again the distance between the alternative and the group mean. Alternative and the group mean. Okay, so this is the way you can really think of how to analyze the problem. Again, you can find out very clearly here that now you can see what is G1 category now? A1, A2, A6. Is it right? A1, A2, A6. Again, what I'm doing now, again I'm doing the same job of the average. 50.67, 47.67, 40.33. Typically G2, 23.33, 57.33, 28.00. So this is again there are 3 groups are there. Again the 3 criteria are there. Again, what I'm doing now, I just mentioned that I'm doing same iterative job. Same iterative job again here. You can find out here that this time again 36.69, 35.25, 35.85. Again you can see here, in this case what is happening here, this error, this distance is less. Please note that in the previous case, what is status here? G1. In this case, the data moved to the G2. Again, we are doing a same job once again for my analysis. So please note that initially somebody assigned me, I have no idea. After that, I'm iteratively moving, not in one iteration. It is a mechanism where the error is expected to be minimum. So again, you can find out here A1 to A9. Again, you can find out the corresponding groups. So when can I stop? I can stop when there is no change in the groups. Is it right? That is simple mechanism, which is meaning that when there is no change in the groups, there is no change in the groupings. Is it right? So like this, you can do some analysis. Then, so again, what I'm doing now, again, I'm expected to compute again the group mean, and I'm computing once again this errors. So you can find out whether any change between the previous assigned group mean and the present assigned group mean. If there is no change in the assigned groups, you can stop your algorithms. Please note that what I'm presenting is a simple example for your better understanding. But as mentioned, the algorithm, most of the K-means algorithms works with the same logistics. At the end of the day, the objective function is minimization of the error. So having said so, you can see here the final partition, what I usually hear. The final partition is like this. So like this, you can also try to understand how to make the problem more informatively and more practically. You can write your own codes. This very simple mechanism. Only it is one, just iterative process. Somebody here later, somebody goes there. It is just like, sometimes people small, people purchase that sports of chair, like, like accordingly the data sets shuffles until where you are comfortable in the group where you are having some understanding. So any discussion till now? Maybe one or two questions always advisable, because I'm going to next algorithm. Some discussion always suggested if it is possible. Okay, I'm going ahead.
Please go ahead, sir. I'm taking care of it.
Okay. So before moving to the fuzzy cluster analysis, I will go to a simple case study where we apply the cluster analysis. Then I'll come back to fuzzy cluster analysis. Okay. So we linked this cluster analysis for multiple domain problems, but one of the problem which I thought I will share to you is related to the multi-objective optimization. So most of the times you may know what is optimization. What is optimization? Whenever my resources are limited and demands are more, I try to have a finer balance, or in principle, I want to get the best out of it. That is the way any optimization expected to works. If you take in optimization, yesterday morning or today morning, maybe Professor Nagesh would have told you about briefly about optimization. So there are number of types of optimization techniques that are possible, like linear programming, nonlinear programming, quadratic programming, list goes on. And here, the case study which I am presenting now, it is a simple case study called irrigation planning problem of Sriram Sagar project. Sriram Sagar project, it is having a live storage capacity of 2300 million meter cube. And in fact, it is having three distribution systems, three distribution systems called Kakatiya, Saraswati, and Lakshmi Canal. There are three canal systems, but out of these three, Kakatiya is the main canal, serving a lot of districts. The climate here is the subtropical and semi-arid. Then the temperature variation is a little bit 42 to 28. And so as mentioned earlier, we are linking our cluster analysis to the multi-objective optimization problem. So before telling cluster analysis, I'm interested to tell about this multi-objective optimization. Here we have taken three objectives. The first objective is net benefits. Second objective is agricultural production. The third objective is labor employment. So I have taken this particular domain for the phase 1 of the project. Here, I is 1 to 16. These are nothing but the number of crops. And T is 1 to 12. This is a monthly model. And you can see here the BI is the benefit, I will call the gross benefit coming out of the crop I. AI is the area of the crop. This is nothing but the decision variable. Again, what is PSW? The surface water cost per millimeter cube. Groundwater cost per millimeter cube. And again, you can see here the labor employment I2 16 crops for 12 months. Again, this is for the fertilizer cost. So this is, please note that we are trying to hear the maximum benefits. My first objective is maximum benefits. Then the second objective is maximize production. What is YI here? YI is nothing but yield of the crop I. A is the area of the crop I. This is one of the decision variable which I am supposed to determine. Again, the third objective is maximization of labor employment. Again, please note that we try to understand the maximum labor employment. Sometimes people say minimization labor employment. That is your third process. How we can go ahead about is your thing. So this is three objectives. Again, any typical optimization problem, you will have the number of constraints. Is it right? The first constraint is nothing but the continuity equation. It is nothing but the mass balance equation. What is mass balance equation? Rate of change of storage is nothing but the flow. Okay, so you can see here that what is continuity equation I told you, it is simple mass balance equation. How mass balance equation works? Let us assume T is representing the month of January, T plus 1 representing month of February. So how my equation looks like? The storage in the month of February is equivalent to or equal to storage in the month of January plus inflows into the system minus all the losses. Losses need not be operation alone. Demands, everything which is going out of the reservoir. That is about the continuity equation. The second constraint is about the land. So there are the two possibilities. I may have water, I may have all the resources, but land may be constrained. What do you mean constraint? Constraint nothing but is some type of an hindrance. Typically, the water requirements. Mostly I may have the land, but I may not have the water. Is it right? So that also we can see. So how to compute the water requirements? You can compute water requirements from multiple sources. For this project, the surface water plus groundwater expected to provide water for the crops, maybe and for some other purposes. So how to compute the water requirements for the crops? You can compute either modified Penman method or any other appropriate method to compute the crop water requirements. That means the crop water requirements are expected to be satisfied by a surface water as well as the groundwater. Then the other constraints are the groundwater withdrawals. So that means every year we'll have groundwater potential. So it is expected that you should not pump beyond certain percentage of the groundwater potential. Whenever you are pumping the groundwater, it is also expected that you will take care of the water quality. And again, So water quality, what is water quality here? You should see number of perspectives, maybe total suspended solids. Some at the end of the day, you are expected to provide the quality water to the crops. Since water is a combination of the groundwater as well as surface water, which we are calling as most of the time that as a blending, it expected that the combined blended water is also expected to be having a good quality standards before you provide water to the crops. Typically, the canal capacity here is such a way that what happens here, I am having a reservoir, my source. What is the required point here? My required point is where a farmer is waiting to receive the water. So that means I'm expected to convey the water from reservoir to the farmer, to the end user through a conveyance system, mainly through the canals. That means that the water expected to be required by the farmer, water available in the reservoir, this may match when you have a reasonable canal capacity. So, and having said so, the other is about the reservoir storage. What reservoir storage? If you see, reservoir having two levels, two steps of storage, that is called the dead storage and the live storage. So we know very well that the live storage is the crucial role in any of the requirements, whether we're drinking water, irrigation, and to make sure that the water requirement will be within zone of the live storage. The other parameter which we cannot ignore is called crop diversification. Crop diversification means what? Please note that I cannot grow same crop throughout, or all farmers cannot grow same crop throughout, because you're supposed to provide, you're supposed to grow a diversified crops to satisfy multiple requirements. So I cannot simply see towards only one crop. That means I'm supposed to be having clarity and a clear understanding that what are the crops I'm supposed to grow, either summer season or the winter season, or whatever, Kharif or Rabi, whatever names you can call. So please note that whenever you are trying to handle optimization, please note that you should have a well-defined objectives, well-defined, not a well-defined, the well-quantified objectives with clear understanding that what are the constraints. How you know the constraints? You know the constraints once you are very clear about your case study area. Then, having said so, for example, the data requirements also. For example, if you want to use a contingent equation, you require a lot of data in terms of the inflows, in terms of the storage values, in terms of operational losses. That means you require a lot of data to run your optimization model. Why I'm telling? Because the cluster analysis is based on your multi-objective optimization. Please see the links. Link is that you formulate a problem, perfectly fine. Next, once you formatting the problem, you're supposed to have the data of all the parameters for successful running your optimization model. In this case, we are talking about a multi-object optimization model. Please note once again that wherever the data is not clear, wherever uncertainty is there also you can handle the problem in terms of the dependability flows. coexistence. For that, we rename that approach, the linear program approach. Sometimes people call the approach name as a chance constraint linear programming, or sometimes people call that as a stochastic linear programming. Either way, where uncertainty is there, but most uncertainty people try to see in terms of the inflows, water coming into the system. Need not be. Wherever you feel uncertainty, you can handle the problem more effectively. Uncertainty come across at multiple places, maybe in the form of objective functions, yes, in the form of objective functions, or in the form of resources. So having said so, please now you can see here, you don't worry about this number. You can see here that these are the crops. There are 16 crops in the command area. S means the summer, which is nothing but Kharif. SRF means summer rain-fed. Rain-fed means what? You won't get the water from the either groundwater or from surface water. It depends mainly on the rain which is expected during that particular season. The W means the winter. Winter means in principle the Rabi. Again, I'll come back. You can see here, like this, there are a number of crops are there. Category to the purpose of the Rabi. In addition, there are two seasonal crops. What two seasonal crops? It starts at one season, ends at other season. For example, chilies, sugarcane. These are all called the two seasonal crops. So what I have done here, as mentioned earlier, my objective is to suggest I want to handle the problem in a multi-object optimization context. So, but how many objects I am having here? 3. Out of 3, one is the labor employment, agricultural production, the net benefits. So, to apply multi-object optimization, there are a number of approaches are there. Here I have chosen one method called the constraint method for the multi-object optimization method. Please note that your clustering results are entirely dependent on your basic structure. Here basic structure is optimization, multi-object optimization approaches. So what I've done here, I try to solve the problem independently. Independently means what? I try to solve the problem as labor employment. That means I am assuming that I am having only one objective function. That means other two are independent. I am not considering them now. So what I am doing, I am able to optimize only labor employment. Simultaneously, I want to optimize agricultural production, again independent of this two. So like this, I ran these objective functions independently. Please note that once I'm running the problems independently, you can see most of the time people may know about these parameters. The irrigation intensity is 150.34, 142, 101. What I'm trying to convey from here, these objectives are conflicting objectives. Conflicting means what? Conflicting means what? They won't move parallelly. In this case of the benefits, the optimization tool has taken the crops which provides the maximum net benefits. And you can see here again, for example, groundnut is a commercial crop. Okay, so this is able to irrigate 93.26 into 1,000 hectares. So when I'm trying to optimize only the benefits, it is naturally expected to pick up the crops which provides the maximum benefits. However, it is expected to satisfy all the constraints, all the bounds. Typically, I am coming to the agricultural production where this maize sorghum are having a high yield capacity. Naturally, the optimization tool taking this too. But it is not taking paddy because paddy may be able to provide the maximum financial returns, but it may not be able to provide the higher agricultural production. That means ton per hectare. Similar labor employment you can see here. For example, some of the crops having a higher, I can provide the higher labor employment. So having said, so what I'm trying to convey, the multi-objective optimization, multi-objective problem will become wonderful when your objectives are conflicting in nature. Then again, I'm going to next slide. You can find out here the if the net benefits in the first case of benefits is how much? 60 to 70.90. U means what? The maximum value again. So what are these values? The net benefit, production, labor, employment. These are the three sets of data I'm able to get while optimizing this type of data. So what is U? Upper value, upper value, upper value. Highest value you can get it. So this data, whatever data I'm able to get here, I'm trying to use this data mainly for the multi-objective optimization problem. Please note that what exactly we have taken. We have taken a problem with three objective functions and a good number of constraints and the bounds. Bound in optimization, nothing but it is going to give you that the decision variable is the decision variable, the range of decision variable expected to be lower and upper bound. And I also told you that paddy, this acreage of the paddy is one of the significant the decision variable. So you can see here, once the upper and lower bound, for example, if somebody asks me, so what is the lower range, lower and upper bounds of the net benefits, the outcome point of view, lowest value is 1084, highest value is 670.90, which is varying between the three objectives. Typically, you can take out the accurate production. You can see here, highest is this much, lowest is this, highest, lowest. So please note that this is the basis for me in the form the multi-objective problem. So you can see, I told you this is the ranges. Then, so when I'm having single objective problem, I don't have issue at all because I'm having only one solution. That solution I'm calling as optimal solution, and I don't. It's very serious. Somebody say this is your goal. Then what I can do, I will reach the goal. Somebody say with my satisfaction because water, time, and energy available, I'm able to reach to the one goal. But whenever you try to do two objectives or three objectives, what is meaning of that? In the same resources context, you may not be able to satisfy yourself completely. That means what? You try to do some mechanism like this. For example, today in 1 hour resource time, I am supposed to do assignment. I am supposed to do some other work number 2, work number 3, work number 1. What I will do, I will try to compromise because that much time only I'm able to do that. I will do 2 problem assignment. I will do partially other work, partially other work. That means whenever there is multi-objective problem, please note that there is no optimal solution. You will have only a compromise solution. Then, so I already told you that I am now going to a simple multi-objective optimization. The technique I used previously of single object optimization also only the linear programming. And so what I have done here, I told you already. I have solved this problem independently. I'm able to get the upper and lower bounds for the multi-objective analysis. Now, what is happening? I'm having multiple concerns. What are multiple concerns? I have taken 3 objectives, and the 3 objectives I wish to handle simultaneously. Is it right? So what happens here? At some point of the time, we have to be very clear the direction which I am going to handle the multi-objective analysis. The number of approaches are there to handle the multi-objective optimization. The simple mechanism which I have taken is called the constraint method. I will tell you exact next what is constraint method. And later I go for the cluster analysis. Please note that the cluster analysis is working with the basics of here the multi-objective optimization. Okay. Then what is the constraint method? Constraint method is nothing but the maximization of one of the, that means the constraint method is technically again a single object optimization problem. But what I'm going to do, I'm trying to keep the other objectives in the form of the constraints. That means that it exactly a simplified approach where I'm handling a multi-object optimization also. Simultaneously, I'm trying to make my problem more convenient and more comfortable. So for what exactly I'm doing now, I'm exactly doing that out of three objectives. What are my three objectives now? The maximization of benefits, maximization of production, maximization labor employment. I'm simply keeping one of the objective here. So since I kept here the benefits, because this is one of the out of three objectives, we done some survey, we found that out of three objectives, the benefits are having the higher importance. So to make myself convinced, I kept my problem the maximization of benefits. That means whatever equation I shown you some time back, you can see here, this equation will come to here exactly as it is here. As it is here. Then, and what are the other two constraints? What are two other objective functions? One is the production, the other is the labor employment. These two, I'm converting these objectives into a constraints. What is ZKK? That is, if K is equal to 1, Z1 is nothing but the production, Z2 is nothing but the labor employment. Is it right? And what is LK? LK is the value which you are trying to vary. What LK here? The limit. What is limit here? Just now we try to find out here. So what is limit for the labor employment? Lowest is this much, highest is this much. So LK value varies between this value to this value. So you can see here, you can see like this, like how many constraints are there now? One is objective function, the remaining are the two other constraints. Plus what other constraints now? Other constraints are whatever we discussed here. Existing physical constraints we will call. But what about this LK? These are nothing but your transformed objective functions. Transformed means what? Objective functions I am simply transferring as constraints with a tag with the varying parameter. That's why I told you that, and that means, and you may ask, sir, why you only kept the benefits, sir? Why not other objectives? Anything you can keep. At the end of the day, I'm going to have a complete trade-off data. Then, so this is my constraint method. Then, so what I've done here, what I told you here, I can change these values of LK. How can I change values of LK? Initially, let us assume the labor employment. I can take any value in between this. For production, I can take any value in between this. So what is going to happen? For specific value of the labor employment, specific value of production, I am going to get one value of the benefit. So exactly, I am doing a same job now. You can see that what is P1 here? This is in principle the policy 1. So what is this labor employment? This is the value criteria 1, criteria 2, and criteria 3. So like this, I'm able to generate how many? 37. I can generate in 370 also. But we've done some mechanism to try to generate the limited number, which in our opinion are expected to be simple in terms, but which are required. That's written here. I will generate number, but we're able to bring to 37. And here also, please note that in some time back I do data mining time. We can use the Watts method. Here also, Watts method for what? Initially placing the data sets into some initial randomly. Instead of randomly, some type of assignment logic. Okay, so that is the wooden here. So this is the data matrix. This I am calling as the payoff matrix. What is payoff matrix consisting of what? There are 37 data sets are there. Out of 37, how many features are here? Criteria 1, criteria 2, criteria 3. C1, C2 and C3. Okay. So like this, you will have the 37 data sets. I mentioned earlier, you can generate any data sets. It may be even 370 also, 3000 also. Possible because you can see here, I can change any values of LK, any value. That means I can pick up, you can see here, I can pick up this value, I can write 1, 1, 1 also. That means I can generate an innumerous numbers. Innumerous means what? Any numbers, any number of data sets. So now, even though we thought this 37 is too small and we thought we can handle, but at that time we thought even this 37 also very difficult. What is my purpose? My purpose of cluster analysis is mainly for the understanding which is the better policy or which is a better alternative to implementing on the ground. Is it right? That means that I can pick up any one of the policy saying that, okay, with this particular set, with this cropping pattern, I can do irrigation in the ground. The purpose at the end purpose is simple. I want to rank these data sets. So which is the best? But there are two difficulties for me. Difficulty number one, this ranking 37 is somewhat difficult sometimes. Moreover, if you see here, the values are almost moving parallelly. 38.250, 38.190, 0.777, 0.777, 5818, 1136, 1152. That means there are some similarities in these data sets, which we could not differentiate, discriminate by doing the multi-objective optimization. So after identifying this lacunae or identifying the challenge, we thought that we want to reduce this data set still more further. But we could not do logically, in principle, manually to take out of these data sets. We could not do that. So one of the approach at that time we thought we will go for the cluster analysis. Again, when I go for cluster analysis, I told you that since we are, it is simple approach, K-means cluster analysis we have taken. And as mentioned now, you can see here, I have taken the Watts method hierarchical clustering. So what we have done here, so this is my data. How we got this data? I got this data with the help of multi-objective optimization. Then after what I am doing now, so I use the K-means algorithm. I started with running with, you can see here, 3. What is meaning of 3 clusters? You can see here, what data sets are available. These 37 data sets I made into 3 clusters. Randomly, I don't know. So you can see here, what is squared error value? The error is coming down. As I mentioned earlier, whenever data sets little bit not closely spaced, whenever the clusters are increasing, it expected that the error also comes down. Error also comes down. The F statistic value is in principle, a too simple technique to tell you the optimum cluster size. Too simple technique I will call. So you can see here, when F statistic value is 10, generally they say optimum cluster size belonging to F statistic value of 10. So you can see here, the number of clusters belonging is 6. Whenever F statistic value is 10. Is it right? You can see here. So what is the optimum cluster size I have taken here? 37 data sets are there. I grouped them into 6 clusters. 6 clusters. Again, one more question mark is cluster. Is it right? Because in the category of the 6 clusters. You can see here, please see that. So this data is normalized, weighted normalized. What is normalization I mentioned here? Make the data dimensionless and giving even the weightage to this each criteria. You can see here, this is normalized data. So please note that the group number 1 is how many clusters I told you? There are 6 clusters. Is it right? So out of 6 clusters, in the group number 1, cluster number 1, there are 7 data sets are following. What is the meaning of that? All are in principle similar, or in principle homogeneous. Typically, you can see that means there are 6 clusters. The data is going in the form of a similarity approach. Then, but like any typical case, there will be one lead. Lead means what? Like a group leader. So what exactly we have done here? We simply taken the group mean. Just now I told you one numeric problem time explanation. The group mean, and the group mean. I'm able to compute the error between this value, this value. This is the error. This is the error. Okay. So we have to make sure that which is representing the group mean. This policy 4 is representing the group mean. Why? Because this error between this data set and the group mean is minimum. Okay. So this is the way we can think of. So that means the policy P04 is representing the group 1, or that I will call it that as a cluster 1. Typically it is the cluster 2. You can see P11. How P11? What I have done here? Again, group mean. That means this means this square, this means this square, this means this square, like this. So like this, 37 alternates become the 6 clusters. Again, each cluster we are having a representative data set. So that's written here. The policy representing the group are P04, P11, P17, P23, P29, P34. That means what? Please note that we start with the problem with the multi-option optimization problem. Generated 37 data sets. Generated more, but try to narrow down to 37. But we could not curtail the data even beyond 37. Is it right? Beyond 37. So what exactly we are trying to do? Again, we take the concept of the cluster analysis and we try to reduce the data sets. I won't call reduce also. I am grouping the data sets, or I'm using the word, I'm clustering the data sets. Clustering the data sets. So you can see here, so like this I'm able to frame the 6 data sets. Please note that for clustering, you require a payoff matrix. Payoff matrix may come from a multi-optimization or some other approaches. Always make sure that your basic data is always having all the data, like whatever done the multi-optimization problem, so that the clustering results will be more effective. So the key So now if you want, I can apply any of the decision making techniques, like multi-criteria decision making techniques, to group them, to rank them, or I group them, rank them, and say which is the better policy. So this is about cluster analysis, where we relate with the multi-objective optimization with the support of K-means cluster analysis as well as F statistic test. In addition, you are also trying to understand that how we use constraint method to generate the policies and what is basis of the constraint method. So this is a link of a K-means cluster analysis with the case study. Any discussion till now, Mr. Girish?
Sir, actually, we have disabled the chat box, sir. So that at the end of the presentation, we will enable chat box so that people ask questions, sir. That is the reason.
I could not hear Professor Girish. Can you repeat once again?
Sir, actually, we disabled the chat box, sir, so that in the middle we will not have any interruption. So we thought of enabling it at the end of this session. Then they will post the various questions. Then you can address the questions, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you enable now?
Yeah, sure. I am enabling, sir.
Please.
So I request the participants to post your questions now. You can, we will open for discussion, and then later on we will end up. The participants are requested to post your questions in the chat box. So someone is asking to explain the cluster analysis. Sir, hello?
Yeah. With that only I started my lecture. Anyway, I already explained once again. I'll explain very briefly.
Yes, sir.
So, before starting of the cluster analysis, I require I am supposed to normalize the data set. Normalize means what? Make the data dimensionless. Then after that, I'm supposed to provide the range of clusters which I can try cluster analysis, and I also should know how many number of iterations I can run my analysis, and where and when I can terminate my process. Process means what? The movements of these data sets. Then, so initially, when I don't know anything about where I'm going to place myself, what exactly I am doing? I am going to one of the cluster. I am going to one of the cluster. I don't know whether I belong to the cluster or not. I am going and standing there. And after standing there, I am trying to see my compatibility with the particular cluster. How am I checking my compatibility? I am checking the distance of mine with the group name. What does group mean? Group means what? The average of all the candidates in their particular group. Is it right? And what is homogeneity? Homogeneity means what? I want to be with my homogeneous thinking friends in the particular cluster. Which means what is homogeneity? The group name. If there is perfect homogeneity, the error is zero. Error means what? Myself, my group name will be exactly same. That means whoever in the particular cluster, they are thinking exactly the same tone. That is perfect cluster. So please note that always at the first one or two instances, really I don't know where I can go and stand there. I'm simply going randomly standing there because I was asked to stand on in any one of the cluster. I don't have any option. But once I gone there, I tried to see what is happening neighbors. Neighbors means what? Within my cluster. Most of time. I'm trying to see whether I'm compatible with them or not. Whether myself means myself a data set. How in a compatibility? When the data set myself and the group mean the distance is smaller, then I feel that as compared to the other clusters, then I am assuming that I belong to this cluster. I take a right decision time being. If I am belong to the other cluster based on distances, what I will do, I simply take my suitcase, I will go to the other home, other cluster. This process repeats until all the data sets are completed, or my iterations are completed, or sometimes people say, please stop, we are tired. These are called the termination criteria. Termination criteria. K-means algorithm is a very simple algorithm for your understanding. Anybody wants still more clarity, even I will be available today after 5:30, even they can come. You can take permission of for the Girish. I'm happy to respond back. I am happy to interact with you on different multiple domains. Feel free. I'm available.
Sir, one more question is there. Can K-means cluster analysis applicable for climate change study?
You can apply to any field when you require data sets. What is in the climate change? What is my data set? I want cluster the GCMs. What is GCM here? Global climatic model. For example, there are 50 global climatic models are there. I want to group them. Group them for what? Some are similar maybe. So easy for me, instead of taking all 50, doing my analysis, what I will do, I'll pick up only a representative GCMs. That representative GCMs I can use as a ensemble, and I can move forward for all other purposes. That means in this particular case, the data set, each data set nothing but my GCM. And the criteria are technically, if you want, you can take criteria, any type of criteria. Maybe you can take here the maybe any measures like root mean square, normal root mean square, any criteria. You can take skill score, any performance measures you can take it out. So the whatever I'm talking is a tool, but you can do lot of wonders with the cluster analysis, not only cluster analysis, in fuzzy cluster analysis, any technique, provided you're expected to know what exactly your goal of doing it. Tomorrow I will explain a case study where we grouped the global climatic models for a better understanding. Very briefly I will explain it tomorrow.
Yes, sir. What are the applications of K-means analysis, or otherwise, which type of data could be effectively managed with this?
Professor Girish can repeat once again the question.
What are the applications of K-means analysis, or otherwise, which type of data could be effectively managed with this?
This question is a little bit generic. You can apply, let us assume if you take K-means algorithm in water resources, just an odd explained to you. You take highway or infrastructure projects, even you can cluster the, let us assume there are 100 stretches of highways. Let us each 1 kilometer highway. Each highway, each stretch I will call. Stretch means what? A piece. Like the 100 pieces are there. I want to see, I want to cluster, I want to classify these pieces. For what purpose? I will know at least which some cluster may be having doing that, some roads are doing very well, some roads are not doing very well. At least what is the advantage of clustering? I can cluster those pieces so that I will have categories of, okay, these pieces are very good, not good, bad. That type of classification I can do with the cluster analysis. It is clustering. You are grouping a data sets. The data set may be the global climatic models, or that the data sets may be the number of highways, or the data sets may be even the number of reservoirs, or the data sets may be in principle the number of the irrigation systems, irrigation subsystems. So what you require here? You require a data sets, they require certain criteria. So the numbers will change from a domain of interest to domain of interest. That's all.
So there is another question. How K-means cluster analysis different from Mann-Kendall test and Nash Sutcliffe efficiency? Something it is written in the chat.
Yeah. I'll tell you. See, the Mann-Kendall test or whatever test you are trying to convey, they are nowhere coming to a K-means category. Those purpose of some of the tests which are talking is like provide us some type of a trend analysis or for some other purposes. Mann-Kendall purpose is what? Identify the trend of the data. Whereas the K-means is mainly, it is a simple algorithm. Maybe after getting the data from the K-means, maybe you can do some type of a Mann-Kendall test, maybe. But both are of different directions, but you may use complementarily later. But for me, the K-means algorithm is simple, simple data mining algorithm to classify the data sets into homogeneous groups, so that I can use this group wise data for number of purposes.
Which platform you use to implement the cluster algorithm?
What?
Which platform can we use to implement the cluster algorithm?
Which
Platform.
Okay, the number of platforms you can try. In fact, you can write your own code. You can write in R. There are number of already standard routines are available for cluster analysis. You take any platform, definitely you will have some odd routines with us. MATLAB, it is having, you are having, R, you are having. So most of platforms you are having you can write some extension code, you can do it. Number of commercial softwares are there which provides the cluster analysis. Number of commercial softwares are there which provide you the cluster analysis very easily in Excel mode, very easily.
Yes, sir. So there is one more question. The calculation is done by manually or any other specific software is available? If it is available, what is that?
Whatever the small problem I shown you today, I done manually only. But definitely, see what happens here. In the problem which I shown you, there are nine data sets and there are 3 groups which you can do very easily. Let us have 100 data sets, 10 criteria and 20 groups. It is very difficult to do manually. It is even it is repetitive procedure, even it is iterative procedure. You better to write a simple code for a better understanding, and so that at least whatever outcome you are having, you know that it is better than the manual solving the problem. Manual solving is very difficult of certain alternatives and the criteria.
All right, sir. That's all about the questionnaire part as of now. Yes, sir.
Okay. So tomorrow I will continue the fuzzy cluster analysis and some of the case studies. If possible, I try to show MATLAB code also if my time permits. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. First, Girish,
Yes,
anybody want to interact with me, they can interact with me from now to 5:45. I will available.
Sure,
Please.
sir. Sure, sir.
Please.
Yeah. I request the participants if you wanted to talk also, sir is free to. I mean, he is offering us to interact for a few more minutes. If you would like to ask in through voice also, you can ask.
Please.
Yeah, please. Thank you so much for your excellent presentation, sir.
Yeah,
For the acceptance of this, yeah, to be a part of this AICT program.
Thank you.
I request the participants if you can interact with the speaker, you can interact
Girish, they can talk to me directly also if there is no difficulty.
Okay.
Perfectly fine with me.
Okay, sir. I'll give your mail and contact.
Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, sir. Please talk to the speaker. Yes.
What?
Sir, are there any other codings which can be like group or termination criteria? Can we use some different variables also?
Uh, Please ask the question very specifically, and your voice is breaking. Please.
Sir, as you like shared your your presentation, sir. So when we say about the algorithm, sir, so can we give a separate set of you can say numberings or the same set of different coding data?
More sound is coming to me. I'm not able to hear your voice clearly. Can you tell very specifically? I heard about you are using the word algorithms.
Yes, sir.
You want to explain me any coding part tomorrow?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I will try. Definitely, I will try.
Thank you, sir.
Any more?
So, no more questions in the chat box, sir. I hope the participants are okay with it. We will meet tomorrow in the evening session, sir. Once again.
I could not get what exactly.
Sir, actually, there are no questions from the chat box, so it's done for today. We will meet again tomorrow evening at sharp 4 o'clock. Then we will have the session, sir.
Okay, thank you for the Girish.
Yes, sir. I will share your email also to the participants so that they can even directly post email to you if they have any queries.
Maybe my suggestion is that you maybe first you get the question, maybe you can forward to me later. There is no problem.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. Sure. Sir.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you for your session, sir. Thank you. We'll meet tomorrow.
I speak to you. Okay.
Yes, sir. I request participants to give your feedback.
Sir, can I ask a question?
Yes, yes. Please go ahead, sir.
Sir, can we have the L hospital rule also? Is it valid for the algorithm?
No, just a minute now. Sir, Professor Srinivas Rajgaru.
Yeah.
Hello. Sir, there is one participant is asking some questions.
Sir, I wanted to know that L hospital rule, can we use it for the algorithms?
Can you speak a little bit louder? Most of the time, that disturbance is coming.
Sir, can we use L hospital rule for the algorithm, sir?
I could not understand.
Sir, L hospital rule.
Little bit okay.
Yes, sir. So can we use it for the algorithm, sir?
Can you?
For the algorithm, can we use the L hospital rule, sir?
Can you use
L hospital rule.
Can you type your question in the chat box, Mr.
Yes,
Rajput?
yes, sir.
Please.
Yes,
Yeah, please. Yeah, please.
Sir, excuse me.
Yes.
Sir, can you ask?
Yeah, please.
Hello, sir.
Please.
Sir, my question is, you are saying that any person or anything has to be go into the particular group. Is it possible to form a group independent, sir? If nothing is available to form a group, a crystal can be formed by isolation member?
Isolation means?